Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Not me. I can't do it. Things are going great. It's a holiday here. It's a holiday in America. Happy President's Day for those of you who celebrate. I think it's called Family Day or something like that in a lot of Canada. So to all you Canadians, taking it easy today. There you go. It's a holiday down here too, and I was all confused this morning because it looked like the internet was out. We had some power outages yesterday. Usually here on this island, unlike other islands like Puerto Rico that have random intermittent electrical trouble, as chronicled by Bad Bunny in the halftime show this year, we don't have anything like that. But on holidays, they often do schedule maintenance. So I had the double problem of internet out, and then X was also out this morning. So just as I was supposed to go live, I'm sitting there trying to understand what was going on. My internet was down, but also X was down. And so I would go onto the cell network and it wouldn't work either because I was only trying X. Anyway, it's a really boring story and it sucks. But luckily, Joe Nakamoto was in studio, so he did a little extra hour. I'll be with you just for the next 50 minutes. Unfortunately, we have Borja's State of Bitcoin show right after, and then Hank's show will be right after that. But we'll get to the bottom of everything in an hour. This is old school breakup style length, not Great Awakening 2 hours. We're going to do the breakup style 40 to 50 minutes. We'll have fun. We got a lot to talk about. I see lots of people were tricked by the time change this morning, so the chat is a little low, but it's also a holiday where you are if you're in America, so you're probably out enjoying your life. Here we go. C. Berger, good morning. It's a great day for another Count BTC podcast. Indeed, C. Berger. Thanks a lot. John Cena 19 says, hello, y'all. ES Empire in the house. Good morning, gang. Happy Monday. Noah, hi. We're still on for today. We're live. We're having fun. We got folks coming in over on YouTube as well. Live long and prosper with the Bitcoin. Indeed. Just a second. I got kids coming in for something. We got kids headed down to the beach for the holiday today. It's a holiday here too. So there you go. Holidays all around, but not for us. We enjoy hanging out with all of our friends in the Great Awakening gang in the morning. Let's go through let's acknowledge we got a major sunrise on our hands. Because it's a holiday, my neighbor's partying a bit, so there's music out there. So we're going to keep the backdrop closed this morning. But the sun did come up, everyone. We have operational sunrise technology, and Bitcoin is also running. You wouldn't believe it, 68,000 US trash tokens per Bitcoin. We're doing great. Let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. This is a cold coffee now, and it is the coffee I made for myself when I thought I was still going live. I only figured it out in like the last 20 minutes that it wasn't happening before we went live. We were supposed to go live an hour and 15 minutes ago. So we still have a bit of coffee in that cup. We're doing great. Let's get right into our NPC news. You're going to love NPC news today. We got some classics, some real classics. Oh, guys, look at this. Look at this. What a bummer. You're not going to believe it. There's scientists are baffled. They're baffled, everyone. They're baffled to discover that 3,100 glaciers are surging as they warn it could be even more troublesome. Guys, it's even worse than shrinking glaciers. This is what we all have to understand, guys. The glaciers shrinking, bad. Armageddon, apocalyptic. What was the one? The Doomsday Glacier, right? But if they're also growing, it's also bad. So now everyone remember, the only path for humanity, we have to embrace it. It's static glaciers, all right? The only way forward is if all glaciers stay exactly the same. We were lucky enough to grow up in a time of optimal glacier coverage of the world. None of them can grow. None of them can shrink. That's the only way. Okay. We need Remember, the key to the future, all politicians, Donald Trump, anyone who's listening, Your number one policy from now on has to be static glaciers. It's the key to everything. It's the key. Okay, static glaciers. Bigger, troublesome. Smaller, troublesome. All the same. That's what you need. You don't want different sizes. But unfortunately, even irrespective of the shrinking and the growing glaciers, we find out that Earth is on track to become uninhabitable, scientists say. The same scientists that were completely astounded by the growing glaciers now also let us know that Earth is becoming uninhabitable. And here's a great idea: why the slowing of the world's fastest ocean current would mean big trouble. There's also an optimum speed for ocean currents. Faster, no good. Slower, bad. The speed of the ocean currents must also remain the same. All right? Now you know. Now you know. We get this too. We get this. You're not going to believe it, guys. You're not going to believe it. Guys, Trump has also repealed the US government's power to regulate the climate, okay? Because we had regulations that were telling those glaciers stay the same, and Trump got rid of that. So now we just have glaciers that are free to grow or shrink, and we've got currents that can be faster and slower, and we got a Congress that should be telling them what to do. We should have been regulating the temperature all this time. We had the power to regulate the economy before Trump came along. And now he's just getting rid of it. We used to be able to regulate the climate with the laws and the writing in the Congress. You passed the law and the climate said, whoa, 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 is that illegal? I'm a glacier. Can I grow? Can I shrink? What's happening here? And now the glaciers, I mean, they're just going to be doing what they want. And the speed of the ocean currents is just going to be like we could have put a police officer there with a speed gun, right? And they would have given the water a ticket, and they'd have said, hey, water, you're too fast. Slow down. You're in a high speed, you're in a school zone. There's class afloat around here. There's a bunch of high school kids in a sailing boat. You can't go that fast, right? And it worked. We had the power to regulate the climate, and we lost it. Trump, again, Trump. What do we get? This is also crazy, guys. This is crazy. All right, so remember how the Democrats just kept all of the ballots sealed in a room in Georgia? And that was, they had them then, and it was like, okay, all the ballots from the 2020 election are there. But now the FBI has engaged a search warrant for these ballots. And wouldn't you know, their search warrant for the Georgia Election Center is dangerous. It's dangerous, guys. The search warrant, which sought 2020 election, we got search warrants out there. They're dangerous. You can't look. You can't. Only some people can look. You can't look. It's too dangerous. It's like Medusa. You're going to turn into stone. You're not going to make it. You can't look. It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. We need the glaciers the same. We need the wind and the water the same. And no one who doesn't have authority, look at the voting. No, you can't audit the election. It's too dangerous. It's dangerous. Don't trust, verify unless it's dangerous. Okay? Unless it's dangerous. He's been breaking democratic norms. Norms are broken again and again. And now look what else he's up to, guys. Look at this. All these people using AI on the internet, but so is Trump. And PBS says Trump's use of AI images further erodes public trust, experts say. It was doing so great. We had all this public trust. Everyone was like, oh, that's a real video. That's great. I didn't know cats could dance and sing. And now we have to start doubting the video because Trump has further eroded public trust. He won't stop. This is what you get. And then this one's great too, guys. This is also great. We get this from Forbes. Mackenzie Scott's 26 billion US trash token giving sprint in 7 years, including a record 7.2 billion trash tokens last year, makes her the third biggest philanthropist of all time. She gave more in 2025 than Musk, Page, Ellison, and her ex-husband Bezos in their lifetimes combined. Look at all these ladies. And, now that I think about where they got their money, and they're bummed, all these men not giving money, and then these women. But what do these women have in common exactly again? Is it that they all got their money from divorces? You need what? We need people, okay? You need to divorce more billionaire men. We need more philanthropists. The men won't do it themselves. You need to divorce them and take their money and give it all away, okay? They're so generous. They worked so hard at their divorce, and now they gave it away. Good for them. And this one's just funny because it's funny. This is just one of those ones you don't want to add anything to it, right? You're not going to believe it, but the Bill Gates Foundation, the very one that Melinda is giving the money away from, it's according to the Financial Times, it's a little bit sullied. It's sullied, guys. It's sullied by its Epstein link. Chief said it's sullied. It used to be like, wow, the Gates Foundation, but now it's sullied, right? It's right. But let's not forget she divorced him. Okay, let's not forget she divorced him. So there you go. That's what we got in NPC news today. All right, we don't have much time, so we're going to rip through this stuff. So one of the biggest news stories over the weekend, of course, was this great speech by Marco Rubio. Many people on all sides have been commending it. Just, even people that I would say wouldn't have been Marco Rubio stans from another time. A lot of people saying this was an amazing speech. It sort of made the rounds on the internet over the weekend. Lots of comments. And it is important, actually, to look at the Overton window when it comes to a speech like this. Theo World, I think, puts it pretty well. He says, a speech from an American Secretary of State denouncing mass migration and glorifying the Christian origins of our civilization would have been unthinkable a decade ago. The American right has come a very long way indeed. And, just some of the details in the speech, of course, here he says that they're U.S. and America, not the EU, right? But America, the U.S. and Europe belong together, bound by centuries of shared history, Christian faith, culture, heritage, language, ancestry, and that since World War II, mistakes have been made outsourcing our sovereignty to international institutions, imposing energy policies that impoverish our people to appease a climate cult, and opening doors to mass migration that threatens the cohesion of our societies, the continuity of our culture, and the future of our people. We owe it to our people to face those facts and to move forward and to rebuild. And so lots of people commenting on it. Now, of course, here's Konstantin Kisin as well with, I think, a really great comment. He says, Marco Rubio's Munich speech was word perfect. The Americans couldn't be clearer. They love Europe and Britain. They see themselves as the keepers of the flame of Western civilization. They want us to pull our weight. I hope our leaders listen. And you get the great David Deutsch here with some interesting commentary. He says, and yet the left thinks Rubio and you are only saying that to deceive, and that you're both really motivated by racism, a massive conspiracy theory dominating half of Western political culture. Constantine replies to him. Oh, by the way, if you don't know who David Deutsch is, he's one of the inventors of quantum secure cryptography. So I don't think he's an inventor of quantum cryptography in any stretch of the imagination, but he might be. And you would know him because he was famously mentioned in the Avengers movie, Avengers Endgame, when Captain America and the others arrive at Tony Stark's cabin and tell him that they want to build a time machine to do a time heist. And Tony Stark says, have you solved the Deutsch equation? And this is the Deutsch they're talking about. So Konstantin Kisin, he's at Oxford or Oxbridge, I don't know, Cambridge or one of the places, professor. So he says here, I am increasingly uninterested in what that portion of the left thinks about anything. If you think legal immigrants and their children are against illegal immigration and in favor of highly selective legal migration because of racism, as far as I'm concerned, your brain is broken and I can't help you fix it. Don't you love that broken brains have become a real normal thing? Speaking of passage of time, there was a time when, I think Scott Adams and myself and a handful of others were the only people who called these political opinions not opinions, just broken brains. And now it's becoming pretty popular. Deutsch goes further, but finally he asks what is supposed to happen, right? He says, accusing someone of speaking or acting irrationally is not an argument, but an ad hominem fallacy and a dead end. But irrationalists are common, and understanding why someone is speaking or acting a certain way is often necessary for persuading them or defending against them. So I will chime in on this thread between David Deutsch and how to persuade these people. How do you persuade someone from falling in? Because irrationality is not it. We're not rational, right? We don't care about rationality here. We care about persuasion. How do you change your mind? How do you get people to change their minds? How do you stop the division by changing people's minds one way or the other? What's going to do it, right? So luckily, we have something called the contrast principle. Contrast teaches a lot more quickly than you would see in some kind of linguistic argument. Contrast is something that you see a lot in memetics, so memes will often use contrast. Contrast is something that can be seen immediately. Of course, you all know that I've been doing a whiteboard on contrast for a long time. Contrast principle looks like this, right? So, of course, these two blue dots inside are the same. They're the same size. They were made with the same stencil. But when you put the larger black wheels around it, the larger black circles around it, it creates an optical illusion and shows you exactly how contrast principle functions. Contrast principle is one of those things that will change people's minds and behaviors a lot more quickly than an argument, right? So one of the cool things that Rubio did this weekend was create that contrast principle. First of all, it created this, absolute retard, Kaja Kallas, to come out and try to make her rebuttal to, she tried to rebuke Marco Rubio. So very funny stuff. So Marco Rubio, who won all these accolades all weekend from this kind of stuff, and Kaja Kallas comes out and tries to, there's a lot of people that picked up this picture here, noticed that she was fuming, right? She was big mad. Here she is during Marco Rubio's speech. This is some bullshit loser from, I think the country's called Estonia that she's from. Estonia, okay? Estonia. No one even know. I can get 99% of people from planet Earth, not even Americans, who don't know geography, which I admit they don't know geography. 99% of people in the world do not know where Estonia is. I know where it is because I've been there because I like hockey, and that's about the only reason. So Kaja Kallas here, right, giving her own version, and this was her response to sort of an epic speech by Marco Rubio that really, I think, conjured a lot of reaction, conjured a lot of patriotism, conjured a lot of pride. And here's her answer to it. It's quite excellent.
As President Macron said in Davos, Europe is sometimes too slow, for sure, and needs to be reformed, for sure. But we absolutely know what we are and what we stand for. As President Macron...
So Rubio gets a blow the roof off standing ovation, and her riz is kind of weak. Nobody really cared. Now, someone who does have riz, and you can use contrast principle as well, someone who's a lot more charismatic than this stupid Estonian, is of course AOC, right? AOC, I've always said, has really incredible charisma. There's no doubt about it. She has sort of world-class charisma. And I would say a lot of people are drawn to her arguments. She's obviously a lot more warm and personable than Kaja Kallas would come across as. I think there's a lot of people that do want to pull up a chair and listen to what AOC says. And, she has her own way of persuading. Now, the difference is when you take a Marco Rubio who, like AOC is a Latin American, right? They both speak Spanish. They're both from Spanish backgrounds, of course. Marco Rubio, I think Cuban, right? Cuban origin, Cuban refugees. AOC, I think Puerto Rican a little bit, some kind of, I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but if I'm wrong about the Puerto Rico part, please forgive me. I know she's a New Yorker, where, I've lived in New York City for years, and there's a lot of Latin Americans there, of course. There's Spanish Harlem, and I'm a big fan of the Chuchi Fritos, the Puerto Rican little bodega restaurant things you have all around New York City. So that, they're endemic New Yorkers. They've been there for almost 100 years now. But the problem is, right? The problem is the contrast principle starts applying when one person makes a statement about heritage and all these things, and another person refers to it, but then tries to use tries to get a rhetorical win, and then it just fails. So she said, my favorite part is that Rubio said cowboys are rooted in Spain. Speak to Mexicans and African slaves. But the truth is, Spain did introduce horses and cowboy culture to America. And here, of course, when you're actually now realizing that politically the Latin American vote is so important in America, you kind of have to get that right, because getting that part wrong and not appealing to this community and not communicating them brings up this whole idea of the contrast principle. So when you see all these Spanish people that would otherwise, I think, totally be fans of AOC, but then she comes out and completely screws up the historical part, the contrast principle starts to get invoked, especially when you see that whole idea of Marco Rubio in the same venue as her on a totally different stage. She's on the side stage, he's on the main stage, and she just completely gets it wrong. But of course, like I said, we all know that cowboy culture is 100% Latin American. It came from Latin America. It has been Latin American from the beginning. The cowboy hats. I mean, I've been to lots of places in Latin America. Guess what happens in Cuba? I mean, Cuba, there's people riding horses to this day to get around. I've been to Cuba many times, and in Cuba, that's what you see. You see people in cowboy hats riding cows, like just because that's how they get around. I've seen young men go call on young women, pick them up on a horse. The women, clearly some kind of a date. They get on the horse, they go, right? This is a big part of these cultures, and to ignore that, really is a problem when it comes to a lot of this persuasion. So the contrast principle really does matter. And when you see AOC, trying to pull this stuff, and you compare it to what Rubio did, you're not really getting into the hearts and minds and invoking much patriotism. Like the way Bad Bunny was able to with the Super Bowl show, right? Like I said to you guys before, the Bad Bunny thing, like, don't get caught up in a psyop about hating Bad Bunny. Who cares? It's a stupid Super Bowl halftime show. And it did provoke a lot of, even on the part of Puerto Ricans who are MAGA folks, when they saw what Bad Bunny did, they didn't have a problem with it. Why would you have a problem with talking about Puerto Rico in an American context in the Super Bowl? And the Spanish part, look, Americans, get real. Like, there's a lot of Spanish speakers in America. There's nothing you're going to do about that. That's a part of it, right? Now, I agree. I don't think it's a good idea to make Spanish an official language. I'm pretty much against the whole press 2 on all the things. I think people should learn how to speak English in America, but you shouldn't not want to celebrate the Latin American Spanish language culture. That has nothing to do with official documents or anything like that. And the Super Bowl has nothing to do with some kind of official line of communication or you pass your laws. It's just part of the culture. So there is a war for Latin American votes. There is a battle, and contrast principle works when you put these two things next to each other and you have one side that celebrates history and one side that ignores it. And so it's a big difference, right? Lots of people also picking up just in general how the contingent of Democrats that went out to Munich kind of fumbled on their own abilities to navigate some of this stuff. Now, again, being right about international trivia does not win votes in America. It doesn't do much. But looking stupid does. And looking stupid does do something. So Gretchen Whitmer goes, everyone's saying she's running. Most people could tell she's running because she had a lot of plastic surgery done before the trip out there. A lot of people are picking up on the precise types of plastic surgery she got. I think Peachy Keenan is in the comments saying it is there, but maybe not. It's a different one. So she actually deferred to AOC as the expert on foreign policy because she couldn't answer anything. So not looking great for them. But again, it's contrast principle. Now, a lot of people are picking up on what happened out there because, AOC and others starting to comment on immigration, race, the whole race war in America. And you saw this weekend both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton saying, sort of like backing off the edges of this. You had Clinton say illegal immigration went too far. It's been destructive and stabilizing. She was out there in Bavaria too. And then you've got this from Obama saying the same things. We are a nation of laws in reference to immigration. We have borders, and we've got to figure out an immigration policy that is orderly and that is fair. So their change in perspective, right? You're allowed to change your opinion. Andrew Torba noticing here, all right, what talking points memo went out to the Dems this week? So they changed their opinion, and you've got a lot of people saying it's insincere and that they are just doing it for political power. So Andrew Torba picked up on this, saying this was a talking points change. Here's Cernovich saying Virginia is the Democrat model for 2028. Run on a moderate message, get elected, then go to town by enacting every far left-wing wish list item. And lots of people picking up on this. You've got Andrew Colvett, who is one of the guys over at Turning Point USA. He says Hillary Clinton all of a sudden telling Europeans that mass immigration has gone too far. Barack Obama all of a sudden roasting Gavin Newsom in homeless 10 cities. Dem leaders are sending a signal to moderate the message so they can go full Virginia if they win in 2028. So lots of people picking up on this. And here's another one here as well. You got Jake Tapper. Look, he's doing his concerned look. What's going on here, man? Is that really what you think? I'm Jake Tapper. I'm gonna try and persuade you with my eyebrows and my concerned look. I'm gonna do my best. I'm very concerned. I'm gonna tilt my head, and then I'm gonna make sure my forehead looks really. What's this? What'd you say? So lots of people picking up on this whole scheme. Media's current moderate darling, Andy Bashir, points to Spanberger's campaign as evidence that Democrats can win, running to the center. Now, all of this is true, okay? If they run to the center, there's the possibility of change. However, you've got to be able to compete on that front with a branding war. And second of all, you're allowed to change your opinion. Like hypocrisy doesn't count in anything in persuasion. You can change your opinion, but in order for that to gain any traction and be persuasive, in order for that to be something that actually moves people, you got to show your work, and you can't just flip flop. Flip flop has the problem of not concentrating persuasion in one direction. Trump being consistent, one of the most persuasive things that Trump has ever done is have those 1980s videos where he speaks exactly like he does now. And, Oprah, there's all these old interviews, everything he said he would do as president from those old interviews in the 80s and 90s still holds to this day. Trump has been consistent on his opinions about immigration, about the economy, about tariffs, about globalization, all of these things. Just a second. So you got to be consistent about this stuff, right? It's important to be consistent because consistency is persuasive. If you say the same thing again and again and again, it actually works. Consistently and repeating things is a form of persuasion. You can flip-flop if you show your work. If you show that it was something that you came about and learned, that you changed your mind because of some reason. Just one more second. So changing your mind is possible. But in order to do it, you have to go back to the thing we understand in Bitcoin, which is proof of work. If you show your work, here's an example of changing your mind that does work, right? Here's Van Jones talking about changing his mind on voter ID. So Van Jones here showing his work, saying voter ID is not unreasonable. How hard is it to get IDs in poor and rural communities how hard it is to get IDs in poor and rural communities is unreasonable. We can fix both. Democracy requires two things: fair access to the ballot and fair counting of the ballots. Okay, just a second. So here's Van Jones showing his work, right? Democracy requires two things: fair access to the ballot and fair counting of the ballots. Right now, neither side trusts the other. That is unsustainable. When both parties distrust elections, democracy is in danger. This is where we are, and this is where I believe we can get out. So here you see, I think, Van Jones doing something that I've often predicted he's capable of here, seeing two different sides of the story and changing his opinion. Changing your opinion can be very persuasive, very persuasive. I showed you many times David Marcus. Remember David Marcus, who's a great Bitcoiner, Lightspark. He was the guy who ran Facebook Libra before. David Marcus was a raging anti-Trump 2020 guy. And then he found out that Charlottesville hoax was fake. Chamath Palihapitiya would be in the same category. They found out Charlottesville was fake. It was the tent pole hoax. And when they understood that, they changed their mind. And if you remember, I read it completely out loud when David Marcus wrote this long essay before the 2024 election saying, look, I am not even close to the same opinion about my politics as I was 4 years ago for this reason and that reason and that reason. Showing your work and showing that you changed your mind has persuasive abilities. Being a sludge person and going, oh yeah, I believe this, and then I believe that, that doesn't work. It's a zero. So whatever Obama did this weekend, whatever you see from Hillary Clinton this weekend is a zero. It doesn't work because they didn't show their work. They didn't show why they changed their mind. They didn't really put any rationality behind it. They just kind of flip-flopped, and the lack of consistency creates again the contrast scenario. The contrast principle is important again here because the contrast principle and why people change their mind and how they change their mind is a big part of persuasion, being either consistent or changing your mind and showing your work. Those two things work. Just flip-flopping like a sludge person because power is right there, that doesn't work. And so, indeed, like I've been saying, everything coming down in 2026 to the voter ID thing, I think is an important factor. And having someone like Van Jones here clearly saying it's not racist to ask for ID to vote, there's nothing of the sort. We need a system that everyone can trust and that everyone can move on from, whatever the results may be, is a big leap forward. Now, it isn't just that that's going to persuade people. So consistency in owning these issues is important, right? So consistency important. Flip-flopping doesn't work. Changing your mind, showing your work does work. So the only thing, if these election laws change, so voter ID is there, the only thing that's going to matter when we actually get to the midterms is going to be consistent messaging about, in particular, the economy, because in the end, the economy is the most persuasive part of all of this. No one wants to be poor. No one wants to have that uncertainty. And so as you start lining everything up, even if these folks like the Obamas and the Clintons and the AOCs totally change their point of view on hating white people or creating a race war. Now they're done. It looks like they're backing off the race war, but they're going to go with a class war, right? It looks like that's exactly what AOC said in her speech. I think I've got the notes on that as well. I think she came out and said, after she said and said that there was no that Spanish people didn't start the cowboy culture, right? She tried that. No, I don't think I have the notes. What she did come out and say, though, is that class war is better than race war, more or less. We have to start taxing the rich and going after these people and making sure we can see the world in terms of this class war. So again, the contrast principle will be really important as we go forward for the 2026 midterms, because the thing with voter ID, as long as voter ID is a part of this, everything will hinge on one piece, which is vision of the future and how wealthy the future is, and what goes in, what's the cocktail that goes into that wealth. So that's where you start to see it's the psyops and whether or not they're going to be successful, or the economic vision, right? So the psyops would be all the Epstein stuff and everything else. We'll talk a little bit about Epstein stuff in a second, or the ICE stuff, right? All of those things. Why hasn't Trump arrested everybody yet? All of these types of stories. Compare those to Trump's own vision for the future, his golden age rhetoric, his America 250 and what happens after, the Greenland thing. So we're seeing the contrast between America growing and being wealthy and America being poor and stupid. So here's the good news, though, and this is what you're going to start to see in Greenland. You're going to start to see the old-fashioned American colonialism come back. Old-fashioned American colonialism, which is just built. There's nothing else to it. Just go build, make money. The people who go to build make money. The people who go to build have a good life. They're able to put down roots. They're able to go forward, not bank-oriented extraction from colonies and where you can suck their lifeblood out of them, not the British-style colonialism. American style colonialism, which is what America practiced across the entire continent. Keep moving westward, keep building, keep growing. And now America looks like it's going to move into the north. And so here we see the Department of War saying we're advancing President Trump's executive order on nuclear energy. Moments from now, we will airlift a next generation nuclear reactor. Emily Hill says this is absolutely earth-shattering news. Imagine a war with no fuel supply chain weakness. That's not why it's earth-shattering news. It's earth-shattering news because they're going to bring these up to Greenland. Pretty soon, you're going to hear about Amazon and Facebook and all these other corporates that are going to be ordered up to the north to build their new cities. The reason they have to do them in the north is because they got to practice if they're going to go to the moon. So you're going to see SpaceX, you're going to see all these folks. And don't forget, SpaceX has already built one of these new cities in the north. They built one in Texas. They've already built the Starbase and all this stuff. They have their own mayor, they have their own charter, they have their own homeschool system, they have all this stuff, kitchens, all that stuff. So you're seeing these proto cities, these proto feudalist kind of cities coming around, and that's why a lot of people are talking about the energy data centers, right? Here's data centers now account for 7% of all US electricity demand. This is going to be a very serious problem soon, says Jesse Cohen. But Trump has the solution. Ordering these companies to build their own energy is the answer here. One of the ways you separate money and state, which is what Bitcoiners want, is to separate the finance model from energy production. Until now, not even until now, after World War II until now, you've mostly seen energy production be driven and directed by the states. So nuclear reactors, that's why we couldn't get one built in 40 years in America, because there was very little private industry left in energy creation. I know where I'm from in Quebec, we have one of the largest hydroelectricity systems in the world, and that has been state operated since the 70s. It wasn't private anymore. And so whatever new gets built has to go through the state apparatus before it gets built. What Trump is doing is forcing private companies to pay for their own electrical needs. That goes back to this American system that I'm mentioning, when American was colonial and was all about opening up new land and creating systems there. Just look at what made Detroit Detroit. Detroit became Detroit when Ford Motor Company built the River Rouge, or the Red River Dam, in order to create hydroelectricity for themselves to build the cars. So we came from a world in America at the turn of the century, exactly what Trump is always trying to harken back to. That's the consistency piece. That's Trump again, having 100 years worth of consistency in his worldview. That's why the McKinley stuff is so big for Trump, because that's where this stuff really got started. And when Trump goes out and says, we're going to make the private companies build the energy, that's the system he's talking about here. that is the time in which America let its private industry go and build this stuff. And so between new cities and building, that's why Trump here with the announcement of the 5 billion US trash tokens for Gaza is such a big deal, because this is American style colonialism. They're going to build a brand new city for Gaza, and the Gazans are going to live there. Now, there might be some new people who come in and live, but they're going to get a city. Now, what administration is going to run it, whether it becomes an emirate, whether it becomes who knows what, we don't know. I'm not sure of the governance model. We'll get there, but they're going to build it first. Here, the Board of Peace will prove to be the most consequential international body in human history, and it is my honor to serve as its chairman. So just look at what the UN has achieved in its nearly 100 years of existence versus what the Board of Peace has achieved in its nearly, a month, 2 months. So here you start to see why the building component is so big and important. So building will help decide what goes long next. And that's why here's Sean Frank saying, I'm long everything. America will fix its problems. No war with China, wars in Europe and the Middle East end. We will solve housing. We will solve addiction. We will solve Social Security and the debt problem. California will wake up and get out of its own way. We will legalize building again. Billionaires will build great public projects, no doomerism. The world will get richer, safer, and more peaceful. More people will get medicine and money and buy cool shit. I'm long everything. And that's more or less what Trump is selling. That's the golden age. So when you take out the cheating in the elections, when you take out the psyops, when you take out all of those things, and even if they pivot to these new points of view and get away from the race war and make it a class war, which is what it looks like it's going to be, that still won't work, because we're in the world of wealth creation. Promising people wealth and having a real plan to get there filled with energy and all this stuff is a lot more persuasive than complaining about rich people. It just is. Everyone wants to be rich. So if you're complaining about rich people, then and you're not giving anyone else a hope to get rich, you have a chance. But if you're giving people a pathway to get rich, and even saying that if everyone gets rich, if all this works, then you'll just be able to pick up all of the rising tide lifts all boats situation, then that'll work too. People want to see more stuff come to them. And that's why Bitcoiners here are already plugged into the world's third largest hydroelectric plant in Paraguay. Hive mining part of this. You can see that Bitcoiners are riding the wave. And other countries are already changing. Here's France deciding to walk back from its previous decision of closing 14 nuclear reactors. Now, I said private industry doing all this stuff is the right way to go. There's other models. The French are going to try the publicly funded. It's worked for them so far. France is a real ethnicity. It's a real people. This could work for them. They're going to open 6 more. But you're seeing in Germany as well, this is the fault line. Here is the AfD leader, Alice Weidel, saying Germany is tearing down nuclear plants despite having the highest energy prices, while other countries build them. What is that if not pure ideology, stupidity, or deliberate sabotage? Now you've got Gavin Newsom, who went and met with the stupid German chancellor, and the German chancellor gave him an audience. Could you imagine how stupid that is? And Richard Grinnell saying German government embraces Gavin Newsom, quite possibly the biggest Merz gaffe to date. California, which is just circling the drain. And I love California. I'm as big a California. I get why people live there. It is paradise, right? But no one in California thinks that Gavin Newsom's done a good job on energy. And meeting with the Germans at this time, who's helping who? Like, I don't know which of these people makes the other person look worse. And compared to what's going on in France and what people are saying in Germany, it's just a couple of losers, right? That's why everything is economic. And here's Chris Cuomo talking about the schism that's happening in the Democrat Party, because it is turning into that. Chris Cuomo eviscerates AOC. He says, you are killing the party. I hope you guys splinter off and become whatever you really are, because you're not capitalists and you're not a Democrat. And so you're seeing this schism inside Democrat politics, which is exactly what I said was going to happen. They can't hold the middle this way. Now they're going to go extreme on one end about taking your money and all this other stuff. And we already see it happening everywhere in the world, right? You've got, Obama here in his own thing, trying to get back onto the side of This was the speech that everyone's talking about. Here he is saying, now says Democrats need to stop their virtue signaling, right? He says there was virtue signaling that made it seem easy for ordinary folks not to say these things. But Beth Jazo saying, is a rift forming in the Democrat Party between the socialist extremists and the centrists? Looks like it, right? There he is saying that. And the rift is economic. So Obama comes in this whole thing and talks about how he did Obamacare. He brings everyone together. It was just crazy. But remember what Obama presided over. He presided over the Obamacare, over the bailout of the banks, of a lot of the economic hardships that created Trump. So here, David Sirota says it's annoying that Obama bailed out banks while millionaires were foreclosed on, which created backlash conditions for Trump's ascent. And Obama now only does interviews with worshipful influencers, guaranteed to never ask him even one uncomfortable question about this. But people don't need to ask because it's happening all around, right? Where people are picking up on it. Here's this is people making fun of his line about the other side does mean, angry, exclusive, us, them, divisive politics. It's their home court. Our court is coming together. Roman Helmet guy does perfect. We never do us versus them. That's why us good, them bad. But indeed, even look at the Obamacare thing, right? Still with the James Van Der Beek connection here. Cernovich hasn't let this go. This is really bad stuff, and he's got to live with this. This is forever a part of it because the war is about economics now. The clash is about wealth creation. It is about cost of living. And Cernovich says here, for a family of 8, his monthly, talking about Van Der Beek, would have been $5,000 to $8,000 a month. That's not even the best plan. 100,000 US trash tokens in income to pay for health insurance. That's with no other bills being paid every year. Even if you have a strong 5-10 year run, money runs out fast. Obama is a demon. Cernovich says, without the Obamacare mandate, we would have had a high deductible plan. $1,500 a month. That's what Van Der Beek would have had. Put the rest of the money in his kids' college fund or elsewhere. Obamacare is crushing. It is one of the greatest evils of my lifetime. So it's hard to run away from this stuff. And the money being taken is happening more and more, right? This lady here screaming, knows exactly what to do, right? She's got this idea. We need wealth taxes. This is the Munich thing as well. We need wealth taxes. We need to take all people's money. We can do it, right? And Jason Lowery is saying it's not hard to imagine a populist movement in the future where many Americans who spend the last 20 years making fun of Bitcoiners support an executive order nationalizing all Bitcoin held in U.S. exchanges. Not your keys, not your cheese. You get more people talking about it. Here's the Dutch wealth tax, of course. Again, we don't need any more proof that this is coming. It's already here, right? These things are already happening. That's why the whole front line now is 100% economic. And you've got Balaji with another piece on it saying liquidation contagion here, talking about just how bad the thing in Holland is. Wealth taxes are even worse than you think. He says any asset held by Californian billionaires or Dutch citizens is now at risk of experiencing forced liquidation pressure. So everything coming down to economics. Norway with the wealth tax, right? It happens again and again. So I didn't get to the England stuff, but this is what I was going to talk to, how I was going to frame it, right? It's that people are already leaving. Here's California. All these red states, all these blue states are now red because of the amount of people leaving. And we got stuff like this happening. We're entering the era of prompt to matter, right? There's no one wants this future. They want the golden age. They don't want, these went viral all weekend, the South Africa contrast principle. Again, it's contrast principle, right? The people selling you this shit have decades worth of track record telling you they're going to take your money. They're going to make you poor. It's a meme to say you'll know nothing, you'll own nothing and be happy. So all of this put together is a great time to be alive because people are seeing the contrast more and more. Here's, for example, Secretary Burgum saying a year ago there was a Biden ban on LNG export facilities. Today, the U.S. is the #1 exporter in the world. The Canadians 4 years ago said there's no business case for it, right? Obviously retarded. So I was also going to talk a bit about how we're getting better at seeing PSYOPs, people really attacking Ray Dalio for this. He's the Greta Thunberg for people who wear Patagonia vests. Never saw this from PDB. Ray Dalio predicted the world would end and the greatest depressions would happen. In 1982, it destroyed him, as he was spectacularly wrong. Ray is a psyop, a Wall Street insider that's here to play a game. We are about to rip much higher and have the greatest American boom. I'm with that. I think that's what's going on. So there you go. I was going to talk about the British and the stuff that's going on there, but we're out of time. Let me see what folks are saying in the comments, and then we got to log off. Citadel Daniel says, AOC is the younger, prettier Kamala. The more she speaks off the cuff, the more ridiculous she sounds. Cowboy culture is inextricably linked to the American West. A melange of cultures contributed: Scots, Irish, Latin, Native American. Agreed. AOC and Kamala are not the best America has to offer. No, they aren't. North to the future. The moon is a grift, though. Maybe. Bitcoiners are long everything. That's our superpower. Good morning, gang. Have to pop back to catch up later. Indeed. Hello, gang. I'm glad y'all made it. Everyone's here. Look at that. Look at all these people. Indeed. So I'm going to is a good Disney actress. Yeah. I mean, she's got real skills, but they don't work when you have to change your message the way they do. The constant changing is just more signs that we got some drain circling going on. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to shut that down. Stop sharing. Let me hear how my studio is doing, and then I'm going to be ending the broadcast. Short one today. All right, folks. The state of Bitcoin is coming up next here on Roxham. Thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed the abridged short version. Yeah, I'm ready to go. So that's it, everyone. I hope you're all having a good day. Next up, Borja has some great guests. Let me make sure. I saw that Alexandre Lazette was one of them. He's also got Robin Sayer. Robin Sayer, everyone. Go check out Robin Sayer. He will also be on the State of Bitcoin show next. So go check that out with Borja. It's a good show. Got two guests, Alexandre and Robin, up there today. I'm sure they're going to have lots to say about what's going on. You'll find out more about the Bitcoin markets and what's happening. So I'm about to hit the logo. After the logo, you'll see the thanks for watching screen. I want to tell you thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you. Take it easy. Peace out.